Hello and welcome to Sideline Story, your destination for sports news, analysis and discussions. I'm Yang Guang. This week we focus on the latest stories in European football. Who can stop Arsenal in the Premier League title race? What does the future look like for Rodrygo? To unpack the questions, I'm joined here with my fantastic co-hosts Tian Yu and Brandon Yates. Alright, let's start with Arsenal. Man, they look absolutely formidable, a machine in every department. It's like they made every step count so far this season and are leading the Premier League table by 6 points. Not much, but the consistency they have shown is just scary. So Tian Yu, at this point, do you think the biggest threat to Arsenal's title charge is not Man City, not Liverpool, not Chelsea, but actually Arsenal themselves?
I would say so, because, this is probably the strongest Arsenal side we've seen in a couple of seasons or even in a decade, I must say. For the front line, so overall, they don't have any obvious weak spots. So the defense is rock solid, and the midfield has more depth now with the additions of Zubimendi and Eze. And their front line seems to have a big problem solved, which is the striker situation, as they now have Gyökeres in a squad. And when you still have guys like Trossard still contributing, Bukayo Saka back in form, Merino doing a bit of everything in the front line, the squad depth is actually really scary for anyone playing against them. Also, their usual rivals, like you mentioned, seem to be not in the same position this season. Chelsea seems to be the biggest challenger to Arsenal, but I think they are nowhere near Arsenal's squad depth. So honestly, the one team that can derail Arsenal right now, I would say, is Arsenal. They just have everything on paper. But I would say the biggest uncertainty is actually their manager. Because, he has raised their defensive level since he came to this team. And he improved their set pieces strategies, which is a huge contribution. We must admit that. But sometimes I think his in-game decisions and his, impromptu adjustments on the pitch seems to be a little bit slow or too conservative. And when Arsenal falls behind in the game, you don't always feel that bold tactical switch coming. So I think if Arsenal don't win the title this season, I don't think Arteta will have many excuses left.
Okay. Brandon, historically, any team that has had a 6-point lead or more after 12 rounds in the Premier League has gone on to win the title, including last season's Liverpool. And now Arsenal is in that position. Are we witnessing a season that belongs to Arsenal? Do you believe the real enemy for them is actually themselves?
I think they've been their own worst enemy for many seasons now. I'm sure that's difficult for Arsenal fans to hear, but I think that they will also agree with that sentiment. And I think this season will be no different. Look, they're in a very favorable position, and they just seem to look stronger on paper and on the field every passing season. And I think a lot of that has to do with what Mikel Arteta has been able to do with the squad season after season, whether it be through transfer activity, through tactics, through set piece improvement, whether it be defensively or on attack. They just seem to look more and more confident and more structured every passing season, and they seem to get closer and closer to the title every season. And this year, at least the second half of this year is no different for them. I don't think many football enthusiasts would have expected this, drop in form from the likes of Liverpool and Man City in particular. While you're right there, Yang Guang, that 6-point lead at this time of the year is very, very critical. I also think that in the past, the squad depth of the leading team with that 6-point lead, has been incredibly strong over other squads. But while Arsenal's squad depth has definitely improved, I mean, for example, Eberechi Eze has already been mentioned, and the fact that he's kind of in and out of the team, but was able to score a hat-trick against their North London rivals,
Yeah.
Tottenham. And Gyökeres coming in, even though he hasn't exactly lit the Premier League alight, I think just having someone as an option like that, even if he's not scoring goals, to release the attacking threats of other players, and kind of suck up some attention to release the likes of Saka and Martinelli and Eze, etc., has been very important. Defensively, they've been absolutely rock solid. The midfield depth has improved. The goalkeeping question that was kind of, a bit of an issue for them over the past couple of seasons has been answered. They've definitely got an outstanding number one now. A lot of questions about Arsenal slight questions that Arsenal have kind of had over the last couple of seasons seem to really have all been answered this season. But I still think the likes of City, Chelsea, and Liverpool in particular are so kind of off form, at least in the Premier League. Look, I'm sure Chelsea would have gained a huge amount of confidence after that victory over Barcelona, even though Barca did end up with 10 men. Beating Barcelona 3-0 is no easy feat.
Yeah.
And I still think that City and Liverpool, in particular, with their squad depth and also their Premier League experience in their squads, I think they could potentially also, find form late on in the season and really put pressure on Arsenal, which is something that this Arsenal squad have struggled with in the past. So there are a couple of mitigating factors that might affect Arsenal in the latter runs of the season. I don't know if 6 points is enough to have them sail clear in the Premier League and be, the out and out standouts to win the Premier League title. They're definitely the favourites at this point, without any shadow of a doubt. And I'm also fairly confident that they are feeling very confident in themselves. And I definitely do agree with the fact that they are potentially the biggest threat to their overall potential to win the Premier League probably lies within themselves. And I think that has been the case in the past, whether it be through strange squad rotation or, one or two crucial injuries or the loss of confidence and big match temperament in certain games. We have kind of seen that from Arsenal in the past, and that could potentially still be a factor again this season. But I still think that they are, again, like I said earlier, looking stronger and stronger every season. And I think at this point they are looking stronger than they have done, since probably their last Premier League win, actually, which was a very long time ago now. So the only real factor that I think at this point that could stop Arsenal from lifting that title is definitely Arsenal themselves, I would say.
Right. I always believed that Arsenal came into this season's Premier League as the best prepared team, while Liverpool, stole headlines with their big signings. It's Arsenal that built not only one but two competitive squads. As Thierry Henry put it, the first squad of Arsenal can win the league.
Yeah.
Well, their second squad can still crack into the top four. The depth they've built is just
Amazing.
unbelievable. Yeah. It's easy for us to forget that fans laughed at Arsenal in the past 2 seasons for finishing second twice in a row. But let's be honest, how many teams can, achieve that for 2 seasons in a row? We have to give them credit. For the past 2 seasons, Arsenal were the chasers, trying to stay in the title race. But this season, I would say they are in the leading role with their, fate in their own hands. However, if we talk about team culture and temperament, if there's only one team that can blow away their own chances of winning the title, I also think of Arsenal as one example. So I guess the biggest enemy for them to win the league title is themselves, but it's quite a strong and a powerful enemy to defeat and overcome. Now let's switch to Liverpool. The early optimism around Arne Slot has hit a rough patch. The tone of let's wait and see has turned into real concerns from Liverpool fans, with many calling for Arne Slot's resignation. The recent 3-0 home loss to Forest was, I think, inexcusable. So Tianyu, do you think Arne Slot can still fix Liverpool's problems this season?
Well, honestly, it is tough. Especially after watching recent games of Liverpool, I think I don't really see a clear path for Arne Slot to really flip this downward trend. Instead of just shifting all the blame to Arne Slot, I want to talk about the deeper issue because people blame Slot for, not using Florian Wirtz correctly or fitting him in the right position, or for the team being too lame or terrible on set pieces. I think those criticism and accusations are fair, but I would say the deeper issue is the squad balance. Because before the season kicked off, a lot of the fans of Liverpool are very excited about their signings. I mean, they're just waves of big signings. Florian Wirtz, Isak, Ekitike, and Frimpong. These names have made them, a really dominant force on paper. But it is already the 1/3 of the season now. And looking back, I would say the strategy was kind of problematic because they have overloaded a lot of attackers, while in reality, it is their defensive line that needs more help. Virgil van Dijk, he's aging, and I don't see really, reliable defenders behind him. Another thing to note is that their old winning formula is gone now. Because with Luis Diaz and Trent Alexander-Arnold both out, the wings of Liverpool are not as lethal as the same. Arne Slot clearly prefers players that are different from Klopp used in previous seasons. Players like Endo, Elliott, they are the guys who used to be very important. But Arne Slot just barely giving them minutes now. That leaves him fewer workable options for him. So the whole team just feels disjointed in some way. So I would say unless something really dramatic happens in the future, I don't see this turning around anytime soon for Arne Slot and Liverpool.
Right. Brendan, do you think Arne Slot can reverse Liverpool's slide? And most importantly, how much time is left for him?
Well, look, on paper, he's got roughly, in terms of his contract, 1.5 seasons left. So it definitely gives the Liverpool board a little bit of a payoff cost buffer if they did want to remove him. So I think there is definitely, financial leeway for the Liverpool board to get rid of him if they really want to. I don't think it would cost them, too much to pay him off, and his position beyond on paper, just in terms of pure results, is definitely very precarious right now because Liverpool fans have definitely upped their standards over the last couple of seasons. Of course, with what Jurgen Klopp was able to do with a very weak squad coming into his first season with Liverpool, and the position that he was able to leave them in, and the success that he was able to achieve over a couple of seasons domestically and in Europe was truly, truly remarkable. But yeah, recent results have been absolutely alarming. They've lost multiple matches in a very short span of time, 6 defeats in 7 Premier League games. I think, you can only really compare it to the Man United situation over not just recently, but over the last couple of seasons where, lots of money has been spent and it has seemingly made the club worse. So yeah, it's a bit of joy in someone's lack of success from a Man United fan's perspective. But can Arne Slot turn it around? Look, I think it is possible, considering the experience within the squad, and I think with certain players coming in, that have definitely not been able to find form as of yet. We've already mentioned Florian Wirtz. Of course, there's also Alexander Isak and one or two other players, that have been injured or, are highly experienced but are struggling to find form. So I think those are some elements that need to be looked at. But some of that also has to do with maybe some positional confusion or role confusion, and I think that's something that needs to be sorted out very quickly, and I think that can be addressed in the short term with maybe some role simplification, but long term I think figuring out how to sort out the impact of potentially the loss of form and potentially the actual moving out of players that have brought in so much success for Liverpool, like Virgil van Dijk and Mo Salah in particular. I think that's going to be an issue that not just Arne Slot, but any manager or the Liverpool hierarchy will have to deal with. And I don't think that has been dealt with with as much urgency as is required. For a team like Liverpool, they really do need to be looking at long-term solutions for players that have brought this club incredible amounts of success for, about a decade now. So look, I think in terms of the short term for Arne Slot in particular, I think the next 6 to 8 weeks are going to be highly, highly sensitive for him. I think a couple of good results could potentially calm critics. But if this slide continues, going into December, January, I think that his position is looking very, very precarious indeed. But I think at the beginning of this Premier League season, nobody was expecting and no one saw coming.
No, not me. I would say if this losing trajectory continues or Liverpool can't recover soon, Arne Slot could be fired before Christmas. And that's my expectations.
Whoa.
But
that's bold.
What matters then would be who would be his replacement. You can't expect someone like Jurgen Klopp coming to the rescue again. You need, as Brendan mentioned, long-term solution.
Yeah,
that's where Liverpool needs a lot of thinking. All right, before we move on, here's a quick review of the biggest sports headlines in China and around the world for the past week. Arsenal beat Bayern Munich for the first time in a decade to maintain their 100% record in this season's Champions League, with a 3-1 victory sending them top of the group. It proved a quiet return to North London for prolific Bayern striker Harry Kane, as his side suffered their first defeat of the season in all competitions. Holders Paris Saint-Germain twice came from behind, beat Tottenham Hotspur 5-3. Chelsea rode to a strong 3-0 home win over Barcelona. Barcelona dropped to 15th. Head coach Hansi Flick says his team accepts the loss.
We started very well in the game. We had a big chance to score the first goal. And of course, with a red card, everything changed. So it's not easy against this fantastic team with 10 players.
Manchester City suffered a 2-0 home loss to Bayer Leverkusen, spoiling manager Pep Guardiola's 100th European game. FIFA has cleared Portugal captain Cristiano Ronaldo to play in his team's opening matches at next year's World Cup. The governing body suspended the last 2 games of his 3-match ban. Ronaldo received the ban after elbowing Daryl O'Shea and getting sent off in Portugal's qualifier against Ireland in Dublin. FIFA says the 40-year-old won't face more punishment unless he repeats the offense. In tennis at the Davis Cup, Matteo Berrettini and Flavio Cobolli have won their singles matches to give Italy a 2-0 win over Spain in the final. Cobolli says Italian players give all they have on court when representing their country.
We cannot lose for our country, so sometimes you learn, but you never lose.
Italy raised its 4th Davis Cup trophy overall and became the first country since 1972 to do it 3 times in a row. The Olympic flame has been lit for Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics at a ceremony in Greece. Bad weather forced organizers to move the event indoors at the Olympia Archaeological Museum. The event links ancient and modern games, a tradition since 1936. Choreographer Atmes Ignatio says the ceremony creates a special atmosphere.
We travel back in time to antiquity with these wonderful marble statues. We made some small changes, but the team is united with the same feeling and energy from ancient Olympia.
The Olympic flame will tour Greece before starting a 63-day relay across Italy. The International Olympic Committee has honored Chinese volleyball legend Lan Ping with IOC Coach's Lifetime Achievement Award. She led China to gold at the 1984 Los Angeles Olympics as a player, coached the US to silver at the 2008 Beijing Olympics, and returned to China to win Olympic gold in 2016. She's the first person in volleyball history to win Olympic gold as a player and a coach. Welcome back. Now let's shift to La Liga. The situation with Rodrygo at Real Madrid is actually very interesting. Just a year ago, he was untouchable, but now he seems almost peripheral. In the past 29 straight official games with Real Madrid, Rodrygo hasn't scored a single goal. 29 games, that's almost an entire season. Quite embarrassing for forwards, especially at Real Madrid. So Tianyu, what made the situation for Rodrygo now? Or should we ask, who made it?
Well, yeah, this one really hurts because as a real fan, I really care about this player, Rodrygo. He's the one I like a lot because, I mean, Rodrygo is very creative and he works hard. He can track back and he plays for this badge. But ever since Mbappe came to the team, I think he basically lost his natural...
The keyword came up.
He lost his natural position. And now with less playing time, of course, the goals aren't coming. I must defend him here because, I mean, I don't think the problem lies in Rodrygo himself. I think the bigger issue is actually the team structure because I think we still haven't found anyone who really play as Benzema used to do. Mbappe says he's a striker, but in reality, he likes to drift out of the box, wait for combinations with his teammates, and pick his moments. So that means someone else always has to fill the space in the box. And most of the time, that someone ends up to be players who don't play that position, and Rodrygo included. The whole attack feel just a little bit out of balance, and Rodrygo ends up being judged for something that isn't his fault. As a fan, I really don't want him to leave because he's the guy that helps us raise 2 Champions League titles and a La Liga title. But for the player's sake, I would totally understand if he choose to leave the team.
Right. It's not only Rodrygo. Vinicius Jr. also recently said he don't want an extension with Real Madrid if Xabi Alonso keeps in that position. Yeah. So that's quite concerning situation for Real Madrid. But last season, I remember Tianyu and I had this wild, discussions about trade, and he messed with me by suggesting that Bayern Munich should send Michael Olise to Real Madrid in exchange for Rodrygo. And said,
it's a bargain deal.
Yeah, and I said, thank you very much, but we are fine. I think of the same answer from Bayern's management. Sometimes I don't get it. Real fans just assume everyone wants to join Real Madrid.
Yeah,
and
that's the basic truth.
Yeah, they can get everyone, whoever they want from the transfer window. Like weeks ago, Erling Haaland was asked by journalists, when do you think you can go to Real Madrid? And Haaland was like, why would you think that?
Yeah, and he just extended his contract to like 2027. That's ridiculous.
Okay. Anyway, Brandon, if Rodrygo does become a big-name casualty from Real Madrid's rebuild, where would be his ideal landing spot next?
I think Arsenal would also be a pretty good fit for him, but I think City might be an even better fit. Mm-hmm. Their tactics over the seasons, their possession model, I think, generates chances. And, that kind of winger inside forward role definitely suits Rodrygo's movement and finishing, so I think that, kind of City style could probably be the most fitting for someone like Rodrygo, because I think even at a team like Arsenal, he might also kind of be in and out of the team in terms of rotation, because I think, Arsenal already have very strong out-and-out wingers and creative forces, and of course have just brought in Gyökeres as the out-and-out centre forward. Whereas at City, I think that, with Erling Haaland as the out-and-out centre forward and, scoring like 60-70% of the team's goals, and the likes of Bernardo Silva getting a little bit older and, someone coming in to fulfill that kind of a role and probably being able to create even more chances and take some of the goal scoring burden off of Erling Haaland's shoulders, I think Rodrygo would be a perfect signing for Manchester City. Look, I think that for Real Madrid and Rodrygo, I personally think it would be best if he stays at the club and kind of still fights for his place and figures out his role within the team, because I think he is still, a relatively young player and I don't think he's reached his potential yet. But I think if he was to force a move away, I think City would be the best destination for him. But I think the clock is ticking for Real Madrid in terms of figuring out where to place Rodrygo, and probably also when it comes to Rodrygo's patience.
Right. I guess City is a good option. I can imagine, Rodrygo fill the void left by Julian Alvarez.
Yeah.
I think of similar roles between these two players. And also, Maybe a free transfer to Bayern Munich would be a fantastic
Not in a million
Yeah.
years.
But talking about Bayern Munich, we have to mention their attack because the numbers are just staggering. 41 goals.
Yeah.
After 11 Bundesliga games, they are scoring at a historic rate across Europe. Bayern bites, and they bite really hard.
Look at the smile.
Yeah, but how? We talked about Harry Kane's effect, where his playmaking and finishing kind of unlocked a new gear for Bayern, but there must be more.
Yeah.
So how do you explain Bayern Munich's incredible firepower this season?
Well, yeah, I think Bayern's firepower just starts with the front three. So first of all, like you mentioned, Harry Kane. The second factor, Luis Diaz, he has been massive too, because I think he brought space and aggression to that left wing. Then there's Michael Olise. What a talent! He's dribbling, his control, his calmness in tight spaces. He's not about raw speed. But he has that Saka ability to beat players through timing and technique.
Saka, give me a better name.
Whoa, that's stop smiling, please. So yeah, I think their firepower comes straight from these three guys clicking at the same time. So I think when they're all healthy, Bayern would really look unstoppable this season.
Brandon, we haven't seen, Jamal Musiala and Alphonso Davies' return. So do you think Bayern would be even sharper with their comeback?
I think so. I know in a recent social media clip that I saw where Harry Kane was talking about a couple of players and talents that he saw going on to become really world-class superstars. I know that he mentioned Jamal Musiala and was really hoping that he would come back and really turn things around in terms of adding to Bayern's already ongoing incredible success this season, but also just the potential that he has as a player to lead the team forward. I think that the return of Musiala to also add to what Bayern and Vincent Kompany are doing right now is going to be very, very impactful. But that being said, the tactical freedom and pressing under Kompany that this Bayern squad has been able to bring this season has been absolutely incredible.
Right. Let's see if Bayern Munich can maintain that scary firepower for the remainder of the season, and if Arsenal can keep the lead to the end in the Premier League. With that, we end this episode of Sideline Story. Thank you so much for joining us. Subscribe to Sideline Story and leave your comments wherever you listen to podcasts. For more information, you can also check our website at radio.cgtn.com. Until next time, stay on the sidelines with us.